Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Saturday race of the day. It is the Grade 1 Florida Derby for the 3-year-olds going after those 100 qualifying points awarded to the winner in Hallandale Beach, Florida, the final prep on this Florida route to the Kentucky Derby. Before we get into the handicapping for this race, do note that we still got this Road to the Derby package going on. You can bundle the PPs for all of these prep days leading right up till the Oaks and the Derby. Find out more information about that on shop.drf.com. And also, with this being the Saturday race of the day, you can get free past performances for this race alone and every race of the day. Just go to the race of the day page, link in this video, or the race of the day page on the website, also down below the description, and you can handicap along with us using free classic, formulator, or Timeform US past performances. Well, Mike, let's throw up this field of 10 runners that are entered for the Florida Derby. And as is typical with Gulfstream Stakes races, there are a few big prices thrown in here, definitely some filler in this race, but there is quality among this field, particularly drawn towards the outside of the starting gate, particularly centering on the number 10 Sovereignty, who is installed as the 8-5 morning line favorite coming off that return victory in the Fountain of Youth.
Looked good off the layoff last time. Yeah, you're right. The strength of this field toward the outside, David, we're getting closer and closer to the Derby now. Listen, we got it feels like maybe a handful of horses toward the top of this division, and everybody else is just sort of scrambling now to see where they fit. We'll see if anybody here can join this party here, starting with the Florida Derby.
Yeah, Sovereignty, I've currently got as the second choice on my early line that I do with Brad Free every week on Derby Watch. We'll see if he can cement his status as one of the favorites for the Kentucky Derby in this race. So do note, Junior Alvarado named to ride when entries were taken. He unfortunately suffered a collarbone fracture. Manny Frankel will be piloting Sovereignty in the Florida Derby on Saturday. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race to get a sense of where Sovereignty and others might be placed in the early stages. And Mike, no surprise to see Sovereignty depicted towards the back of the pack. He is a horse that likes to launch in the second half of the race, but it does appear like there's a fair amount of speed signed on in here, particularly between the two horses that are shown towards the front end, Neo Equos and Disruptor.
Yeah, this is the pace projector as far as the connections of Sovereignty are concerned. This is a pretty good looking pace projector. He's going to want a fast pace, I guess, in front of him. I guess we probably should have mentioned that, drawing post 10 going this distance on Gulfstream's, main track. It's not an ideal post position, David, but I guess a fast pace could help him overcome it.
Yeah, it's not an ideal post, but he is a horse that is expected to drop back early.
Yeah.
So maybe the post position is not as much of a concern as it would have been for a horse with tactical speed. So we'll see how some of those speeds that are drawn outside are ridden into the clubhouse turn, like the number 8 Madaket Road, who did show a lot of speed in his prior start, but does take the blinkers off in this race. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Neo Equos, and he finished behind Sovereignty when he made his return last time, stretching out for the first time off a sprint victory in January. And this horse handled the stretch out fine, Mike. I mean, he got a 91 buyer, tying his previous best as a 2-year-old. He had shown quality chasing that very accomplished Florida bred rated by merit last year. And he did run well, setting an honest pace last time. I still wonder if he's a horse that it's going to continue to get better as the distances get longer, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. And obviously that pace projector we just looked at, probably not a great sign for this horse either. So we'll see what kind of trip he can work out. He's drawn very well here to the rail. So if he can just sort of, if he doesn't make the lead, just sort of fall in behind horses here, maybe he just lands a really good trip. Overall, with his Fountain of Youth, I'm not knocking it. I just thought, Irad gave him every chance to win. I really liked the ride from Irad, even though the pace was solid. Just press on to the lead there and see if you're good enough. And he wasn't good enough.
The number 2, Cool Intentions, is going to be one of the bigger prices in this race, and he was just pretty disappointing when he tried Stakes Company in the Mucho Macho Man last time. Never really got a rally going and was just pretty one-paced through the lane in a race that was dominated towards the front end. But Mike, we've seen some horses come back out of the Mucho Macho Man, primarily those that finished ahead of Cool Intentions, and they have suggested that might be a negative key race moving forward. So a little tough to paint a rosy picture for this horse's last effort.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue that point. That Mucho Macho Man has come back. It's been a bad race going forward. We'll see if any of those horses can sort of regroup, starting with Cool Intentions. Listen, I can't defend his Mucho Macho Man. He was terrible in that race. He never got involved. The flip side of that is I liked all of his first 3 starts. I thought he ran well in every one of those races. I don't know, man. They got to stretch out here. He's got to prove that he fits with horses like this. But he's got plenty of tactical speed. He'll be a big price in this race. And I'm not willing to totally give up on this horse.
Now, Mike, I know that the number 3 Smokin' Boy is a horse that you had some interest in when he first came to the continental United States from 3 races in Puerto Rico, and they tried a Derby prep in the Sam F. Davis. Not the best trip, but he still didn't do a whole lot of running in that race. And then they dropped him last time into that optional claimer where he was claimed for the 75,000, but again, was not much of a factor, albeit with a wide trip. They're just asking a lot of him to step back up into stakes company at the grade 1 level off that kind of effort.
I mean, I can't even believe they entered him in this race based off of his 2 starts since he's gotten into the continental United States. I mean, he was wide in the Sam Davis. He was wide again last time, but this horse hasn't done any running in either of those starts. I have no idea why they entered him here.
Getting into some of the major contenders, up next is the number 4 Disruptor, and another horse whose connections are asking quite a bit of him, but I think he's shown the talent to maybe be up to this task. In his maiden victory last time, which we'll take a look at here, took a lot of money once again. He also got bet down on debut to odds-on favoritism, and the public went back in here, and they were rewarded with a near 10-length victory. And Mike, it looked like there might have been some talent among first-time starters coming into this race. Disruptor just traveled well around the far turn and shut the door at the top of the stretch as he draws off to an impressive victory. This was going 7 furlongs. They're now asking him to stretch out, trying winners, trying stakes company for the first time. And we'll show a stat for trainer Todd Pletcher, who does not have the best numbers with this move. And I looked at all different types of situations around this horse for Pletcher. Graded stakes, trying routes for the first time. I settled on this one, last stop maiden winners in dirt routes in 3-year-old graded stakes. Pletcher's over 23 with just 5 hitting the board, and there are several short prices in the sample.
Yeah, that's not great. We'll see if Disruptor can prove the exception to that stat right there. Well, we'll see, David. I don't know what to say about this horse. I guess his debut, even though he was really bet in that spot, and he wound up not being able to hold on. I mean, he did take some pressure on the lead in there. I don't know. I wasn't totally disappointed in the performance, although I didn't think he ran great in there. I know that he improved last time. He certainly did. We just saw the replay. I'm still conflicted about what was behind him in there. I guess we'll see as time goes on. As you mentioned, there were a bunch of first-time starters behind him, but I just didn't see anybody doing any running behind this horse last time. Maybe he's just that good and he'll class up with these horses. I didn't like him that much in here.
I did watch his last workout on March 22nd at Palm Beach Downs, and watching that work, it's pretty apparent why this horse has taken so much money in his races. He looks like an absolute beast in the mornings. We'll see if it translates to the afternoon. The number 5 is Indecisiveness, a horse who did try this distance last time in that first level allowance that a few of these are exiting. He finished behind today's rival, Jimmy's Daily, so we'll get to him in just a second. And, Mike, he traveled between horses, got out at the top of the stretch and just kind of stayed on at one pace. Looked like he got the distance well enough. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get it against tougher competition at this level.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's run 4 times now. None of those performances give him any kind of a serious chance in this race, but they're going to step up here. I guess they think the distance really works for him. As you mentioned in his most recent start. All right. He was between horses, I guess, on the final turn, but all in all, thought that trip worked out for him and he just wasn't good enough.
The number 6, Jimmy's Dailies, is a horse that achieved the best result of those exiting that first level allowance race in late February. That was won by Grande, who we will see in a Derby prep probably next week. And Mike, I thought Jimmy's Dailies handled the 9 furlongs pretty well, considering that he had only gone 1 turn up to 7 furlongs prior to that. There was a point on the far turn where it looked like he might be totally finished once Grande put him away. But I did like the way he stayed on once he switched outside of that rival in the last furlong. He's going to have to run faster to beat this group, but I do feel like he's been taking steps forward with each start since returning as a 3-year-old.
I like that about him too. And I think this is also a spot where you won't see him on the lead this time. You'll probably see him just sort of sitting more like the trip that he got 2 back when he broke his maiden, just sort of sitting in behind horses and then trying to rally through the stretch. Maybe it'll make a difference, David. He's obviously going to have to up his game in this spot, but at least he's run races that sort of put him on the cusp of being competitive here. And I don't mind them sticking with longer distances for this horse.
The number 7, Enter the Dragon, is the last of the big prices that we'll talk about in this race. He's trying to make the switch from turf back over to dirt. He did try the dirt once in a minor stakes in his 2-year-old season and was just never really a factor against a weaker field than this. He has since improved considerably, but done so on the grass and done so with pretty good trips, saving ground in his last couple of turf races, Mike. just a tall order for this horse to run the best race of his career on a new surface.
Yeah, exactly. It's just hard to really look at. I mean, it'd certainly be, if you want to look at him as a wild card, I guess that's fine because, you mentioned he's had some good trips. The race 3 back when he won at Tampa, he overcame a little bit of trouble there and he was pretty impressive winning. But since then, he's just sort of won the same race twice against stakes horses and he wasn't good enough either time. He's just going to have to be a way better dirt horse. And I'm not convinced that he is.
The number 8 is Madakit Road, who is an interesting shipper for this race, coming in for trainer Bob Baffert, who doesn't send that many horses to Florida, but he's got so many good 3-year-olds, he's got to spread them out. So Madakit Road will land in this Florida Derby off this performance that we'll take a look at last time in the Grade 2 Rebel, where, Mike, he laid down some blazing early fractions. There was a competitive pace up front. I think there were 4 or 5 speeds in this race, and Madakit Road was set hard to make the lead ahead of all of them, and certainly put away the other speeds quite easily. You can see everybody else behind him is fading at this point, except for Cole Battle, who was able to get outside of traffic and run him down in the stretch here. But Madakit Road holds on pretty well for second. I still question whether or not he's a horse that's going to continue to get better with added ground, because watching him run, he does look like he just possesses a lot of early speed and uses it to his advantage. And you can see he's coming in off some pretty quick workouts. I would imagine with those blinkers coming off, he's going to race without them here.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. He's a dangerous horse in this race. I don't think there's any two ways about it. It just feels like they've shipped into a pretty good spot for Madakit Road. I don't know how good this horse is either, David. I will say maybe they just picked the wrong time to finally use this horse's speed in the Rebel last time because he just had to go too fast. It's worth noting his first 2 career starts were in really, really fast-paced sprints, and he just didn't have any chance to make the lead in there. They didn't get aggressive the first time they stretched him out, but they did get aggressive last time. This horse ran pretty well in the Rebel, I thought.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I thought there were a few horses on that Rebel card that were used aggressively and got to the inside, outran the rods, he being one of them, although I do think you still have to give him credit for the pace that he set because he was going way faster than all of the other dirt routes on that card. The number 9 is Tapan Street, who has only run twice in his career, was a good-looking debut winner going 7 furlongs, where it seemed like he was kind of figuring things out during the race. And then last time, we'll take a look at his Holy Bull, where they stretched him out to the 2 turns and got beat by Burnham Square. And Mike, I don't know what your take on the Holy Bull is as a whole, because I think it dropped in a lot of people's estimation after Burnham Square came back to disappoint in the Fountain of Youth in his next start. But I still thought Tappan Street ran pretty well in this race and seemed like a horse that at least got this distance. And they've given him some time since then. He's another one, when I watch the recent workouts, it does seem like he's really thriving coming into this race for Brad Cox.
Yeah, I like both of his races. So I would stay positive on this horse, even if you didn't like the Holy Bull overall. Burnham Square is still a nice horse, even though he lost his next start. And Tappan Street, I thought, ran really well in there. I liked his debut. I thought he stretched out really effectively last time, even though he couldn't hold on. And, he's just so lightly raced, David. This is a horse who I think you want to really stay positive on, at least through this race, and just see what happens, because he clearly has talent.
Yeah, and I mentioned the workouts. He's been the workmate of Saudi Crown coming into this race, and in the workout 2 back on March 15th appeared to outwork that foe, who typically is a good workhorse himself. Mm-hmm. The number 10 is Sovereignty, who is really the center of this race, coming off his victory in the Fountain of Youth last time. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that most recent Derby prep in Florida, and he still had some work to do coming into this short stretch, but you could see as soon as he switches over to his right lead, he just finds another gear, much the way that he did in the Street Sense during his 2-year-old season, where he was so impressive, making this big run around the far turn to mow down the leaders in the stretch and win going away. And just looks like a horse that's going to have no trouble handling the 9 furlongs based on the way that he's finished his last couple of races. And Mike, the whole narrative coming into the Fountain of Youth was that he wasn't working like he was quite ready for that race. He won anyway, so maybe there's a step forward coming.
Yeah, I wonder about that too, because it didn't seem like he was fully cranked up for that race, but it didn't matter. I also just sort of really appreciated too, David, that even though he was last up the backstretch in the Fountain of Youth, he wasn't outrunning that race. Like, he was never so far away, and he still managed to find that finish that we just saw there on the replay. That's sort of been his calling card anyway, right from the start. I mean, this horse stays, and he's a really, really strong finisher. We were talking about the outside post. I mean, you're correct that maybe it's not a big deal because he's a closer, but that's still a decision that Manny Franco is going to have to make when they break the gate here, because you cannot get caught in between. You either got to take back or you got to go forward. You can't just sort of, fool around coming out of there and get caught, very wide on that first. And he's got to make a decision when they break the gate.
Yeah, coming from way back is not the easiest thing to
Yeah.
do over that Gulfstream Park dirt course. So we'll see if Manny Franco can work out a trip for Sovereignty. Before we get to the picks, do hit the like button on this video. We love when you hit that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment if you have any thoughts about some of the horses we discussed, agree or disagree with our takes on this race. We love to hear from you. Well, Mike, let's throw up our picks for this race, and you're going to go with Sovereignty. And just a lot to like about this horse who won that last prep and looks like he's got forward to go.
Yeah, I'm just a fan of this horse. I think he's one of the better 3-year-olds. I'll stick with him here. I really only liked the two outside horses here, David. To me, just one of those two was very likely to win this race, and I wasn't so convinced that Tappan Street was going to be an interesting enough price for me to take him on top. But I guess we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, Tappan Street to Pan Street, I think is the way his connections prefer you say it. We'll see which one the announcer goes with on Saturday, but I did put him on top of the number 9. Just liked his effort last time in the Holy Bull. Seems like a horse that still is learning his job and might have another forward move in him, especially based on the recent workouts that I saw. Don't know if we're going to get the 5-1, but even if he's vying for second choice in this race, I think he's a good alternative to Sovereignty. So 9, 10, 6, 8 for me, and 10, 9, 8, 2 for Mike in the DRF Saturday race of the day, the Grade 1 Florida Derby. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.